Thank you. So welcome to RIFF 2022. If this is your first film, if you've been watching films already, thanks for coming today. We have the creator of this film, Olaf de Fleur, with us, and we have a Q&A where you can ask any questions you want. I'm going to be your moderator. My name is York. So just put your hand up and shout, and if he can't hear it, I'll try and say it for you to make sure he understands what you're saying. To get things started off, I'm just going to ask the first question. There's a movie within a movie, a script within a script going on throughout this whole film. He's writing about being a bus driver going to Las Vegas. It's a metaphor for life. It almost has a Catcher in the Rye feeling. But the film you've made is really a metaphor for writing itself. Like, so even if you have a very interesting and a story to tell, you still have to get it out somehow, no matter what you have. And if you don't have a background like his, you might even think that's the same struggle, even though you come from completely different backgrounds. The process of writing is the thing that joins you. And so, is that something that you were trying to create from the get-go?
Yeah. So anybody who has attempted some writing has seen the teeth of the beast. So this film is really born out of my issues with writing. So I made this crime film in Iceland in 2010, and some people came from Hollywood, saw it and said, "You're great, we're going to sell your film." And I was like, whatever. And they went to LA, they sold the film, got me some agents and stuff, and I started to go to Los Angeles on a regular basis. And that's where I met Daryl for the first time. Somebody asked me, "Don't you need a driver?" And I was like, yeah, because I don't want to drive in LA. And then he would drive me like every time I would come there. And when I was, in the first 3 days that I was with Daryl, I was very busy on my phone, like trying to make it in Hollywood. Yeah. And Daryl was being very, very quiet. And the first thing he said to me when we were driving between meetings, I'm just in my phone and I hear, "This is a cemetery." And I'm like, I look up and I see all these white crosses coming at me. It's like a metaphor for my career. And then I look at Daryl and he just looks at me and nods his head like, "Everybody die and get in there." And that's kind of how I fell in love with him. And then I would just have him go with me to all the meetings, like to the studios, because I was so nervous. And Daryl would have this way about him to calm me down before all the pitches. And then little by little, to go closer to your question, I heard about that he wrote a script in prison with a pencil, and then he wanted to write outside the prison walls, and he was having great issues with it. And I've always had a lot of issues with writing, even though I've written a lot of scripts. So I kind of just want to jump in with him and create, again, this metaphor, like how writing is difficult, no matter what your background. But given Daryl's struggles and story in life, it's hard to complain. But we all face this like procrastination, and this is, as you said, film within a film within a film. Yeah. Like I'm also making a film about that pain of writing. Yeah.
Yeah, and if another thing that happens is because the film starts out very funny, where you're getting like his funny letters that he's saying, and you get this kind of sense of, okay, he's very charming, and he's got this way about him. But then, you get to midway through the film, and his stepson, has died, and you start to realize, like, do you keep going? Like, it almost feels like, okay, it shouldn't it just be over? Why would you keep going at that point? Did you ever at any point feel like, where you weren't sure if you were doing the right thing anymore, or why you were doing it? Did you lose track of what was going on? Because it becomes like, it's all fun and games when you're shooting stories, and then when you're a part of someone's life and they're facing tragedy and you're filming it, you become a different kind of character in their life.
Whenever I decide to make a documentary, I just become like a doctor, and I just don't care. I mean, a part of me, the human part of me is like feeling sorry for people and stuff, but I'm very methodological. So when that happened, I just waited. I don't never push or force people. I'm just around them, and then Daryl would call me and ask to keep going. So yeah, so it's heartbreaking, but like my job is to get this story out to the world. And I don't know, it's easy to say it here, standing here, but of course when you're there, it's, you know, again, it's heartbreaking because, you know, I practically lived with him for 18 months. You know, I tented in Inglewood with him, so, yeah, so I knew everybody. Yeah.
Do you have any questions from the audience? Yes.
Congratulations, great movie, my friend. Two questions. Your artistic choice to do it black and white, and also second question, like your thought process and issues regarding putting yourself in front of the camera. Story-wise, is it helping, or you're taking quite a risk by putting yourself in front of the camera? What was your thought process behind that? Second question.
Copy. So we have two questions from this gentleman here to my right. There will be to your left. Thanks for the question. So the reason for the black and white, I had been editing the film in color, and something just didn't feel right. And I don't personally like black and white that much. I always find it very pretentious. But when I tried it on the film, it felt right because it felt then more like a world far away. It felt more true, somehow. When it was in color, it felt like, oh, it's just another one of those somehow documentaries about somebody who's blah, blah, blah. But this just gave it also an identity, and also I've just felt it worked with maybe what you mentioned earlier, the theme of a film within a film. Yeah. It's farther away. And then with putting myself in the film, that was very uncomfortable. But I just thought that when I started making the film, I just figured like this is about our friendship, and it will be more natural for me to be in the film and kind of set Daryl up. And then also kind of the doctor thought of me, stepped in there. I just have to do it. Plus I have subjected so many people to being in front of the camera in my acted films and other films, so it suits me right just to go in there. Yeah, and so just the main thing there was, the only thing I was making sure of not to step in front of that Daryl story.
I was just a question because I was fascinated with both the choice of being black and white and you putting yourself into his story. It was a beautiful choice.
Thank you. Thank you.
A question back there?
Yeah. What's the most important thing that Daryl has taught you, and would you say his life has changed ever since you made the movie?
I don't know. Taught me, maybe if I kind of massage that word a little bit. I guess he kind of proves, like the thing that I'm most fascinated about in, like when you're writing, making any kind of art, and after being with Daryl, it kind of proved, yeah, my favorite concept with chasing art. That is the concept of stupid courage, like being stupid. Like, I'm just gonna walk in there and go, gee, there are giants here, I don't give a shit, you know? And that was a little bit like that. You know, the world is crumbling around him, and but still, he's still like, I want to be funny, and I want to play. What was the second part?
Do you think his life has changed? Because, like, I was thinking a lot about the young man, Marquis.
Yep.
Because okay, it could be that I'm like opening a powder keg now, but I'm following someone on YouTube who takes medication against cystic fibrosis
it's not a theme that as you say, it's like a theme maybe behind the story. You think about maybe the financials. I mean, they're doing okay. They have like some core insurance, but like when he's talking about his siblings that have died, they did not have insurance. It's like a real thing in the U.S. But in terms of changed, not maybe financially, like what is saving Daryl financially, just to answer it, is that they inherited this small house that is in the film. Right, so they don't have to pay a lot of the core fees around that. So that's what makes them stay afloat. And that allows Daryl to invest in trailers and travel around with Tonya, you know, and play in life. And in terms of changed in some other way, he's writing much more. You know, it's kind of like the script he's doing in the film is now being optioned with the company, and that's, you know, looking good, but you never know. But he got some confidence in terms of that. So financially, they're fine, and he's doing better with the writing. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Another aspect in the film is this idea of writing as therapy, and you're challenging him to like talk to himself when he's younger, and he's trying these different approaches. Did you know what was going, like, how do you can't really, like, if you film anybody who's been in an acting class before, you'd be embarrassed for people to see like that breathing exercises and everything. It becomes something almost comical, but in this case, it became something quite harrowing to see someone reflect on their past in this way. Were you sure what was going to happen, or was this kind of just, let's go for it? Is this the method that you've done before, or is it something you're just like, okay, we've got to find a way to show this in the film?
No, I was very scared when I like suggested that he did that, but it didn't come out of the blue. He had been talking about it for quite a while. He even did a short film, like a 1-minute short film about the time he went into the hamburger stand and he plays the bad guy. So I was kind of stepping on the shoulders of that, him playing the bad guy. So he did his own version of when he met the friend in the street and they walk into the hamburger stand where the film ends. And I had to cut that scene out of the film when he's making the short film. But then the exercise in his garage with a broom, that's how that was born. Like he had been kind of like tiptoeing around it, and then he just, you know, scared the shit out of me, and again, a testimony to his courage.
Do you have any other questions? Oh, they're at the back first, and then you.
Yeah, I was just curious. I saw in the end that you, thank you for the film. It was great. I saw that in the end that you brought him here to Iceland. I was just curious about how that trip. Can you tell something about that?
Yeah, they have been talking about coming to Iceland for quite some time. They bought some tickets and stayed with me, and it was very colorful. You know, they even went to the to the countryside to see the sheep and everything, but nothing did really put them off or disturb them. Like they joke every time, as you see in the film, and they're both full of humor. But it was very comical of hearing them talk about the flight. You know, like Daryl, for example, he can make like any kind of joke about people sitting to his left and right. And then I always remember when I drove him, I mean, they were here for about 5 days. And when I drove him to the bus central before they go to the airport, like early in the morning, I go with him, I'm half asleep, take the bags out, we go into the bus central. And the bus central is about from here to maybe there. That's the physical distance. And on this journey here, Daryl had talked up about 7 people. And they were all around and talking to him. And he was like, yeah, how you doing? Yeah, yeah. Where you from? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that was like the first thing I learned from Daryl. Like anytime I would be in a convenience store in Los Angeles, he would come coming behind me. And I will always hear him say, hey, how are you? Hey, how's it going? Yeah, hi, how are you? And And then I asked him about it, like, why did you say hate to everybody? And he told me that's what they learn in the prison yard. Like when I was 18, 19, the old timers in the prison would tell him, say hi every time you go into the yard. That decreases the chance of violence by a considerable degree. So yeah, thank you for that question.
You said you lived with Daryl and his family for 18 months.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how did it come about?
Yeah, when I decided to make the film, I had stayed with him a little bit in Inglewood. And then, so it was like 18 months in 2 sections. And living with him, which I suspected what you're smelling, was extremely colorful. like I was the only white person there, and his friends would come over, there'd be like 20, 30, and they would just ignore me because I was harmless and I'm from Iceland. All these ex-convicts, they were playing with guns, making me sweat. But very enriching. It was like being in a movie. And extremely rewarding. Extremely rewarding. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions here? Whenever you're dealing with people who have been incarcerated or there's crimes, did you ever have a feeling that maybe you didn't know everything that was going on, and maybe is it right to give a voice to he's got assault and battery, he's accessory to murder, even though you can see that obviously it worked out in the end? Was there ever a point where you're like, am I trying to absolve someone of their guilt when I shouldn't be? Did that ever come about?
I just gave it common thought, but I decided very early I didn't want to make this yet another prison film. Right. About black people in America, no way. So it was just about our friendship, but it did occur to me too, the typical way would have been, going all crime on it, what really happened, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's just, I was really looking at it from the outside, and because I don't know much about the American, system and stuff, I shouldn't go in there. Just, yeah.
Well, this is the sign that we're out of time. If you have any more questions, you can obviously talk to him at the lobby. He's going to be available for a few minutes. But Olaf, I think on behalf of all of us here, I'd like to thank you very much for bringing this film to RIFF.
Everybody want to say hi to Daryl? Hi, Daryl, one more time. Hi, Daryl. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, Daryl.